Greetings, friends. My name is Nayaswami Uma, and as you just heard, I'll be talking today in the end of this beautiful week of music of Swami Kriyananda to celebrate his birthday. And it's very fitting that the song I am talking about is Thy Light Within Us Shining. I want to give a little context for this song because it's important to the story of it. Swamiji was inspired to write his oratorio, Christ Lives, in around 1984, 5, somewhere in there, I think 85. He was inspired to write it by a visit to the Holy Land. All the places mentioned in the oratorio he visited, and you feel that in the music. He was asked once, why did you write the oratorio? And he said that because Ananda and Swamiji and others would go out a lot into the United States and give programs. And of course, we'd go to spiritual centers like, churches and places where yoga was practiced, etc., those kinds of places. And Swamiji said I could go to churches and yoga centers and talk about inner communion. And maybe some people would hear it and some people not. But he said, after I wrote the oratorio and we would perform the oratorio in churches or spiritual centers, everyone had an experience. Everyone was moved or touched by the music. Swamiji said that, of course, music bypasses the mind, the intellect, and goes deep into the heart. So we have a response to whatever the music evokes in us. It can be sadness, sorrow, anger, violence, love, happiness. It can be war, peace, nihilism, and hopelessness. You can have very, very many reactions to music. And if music is spiritually inspired, which the oratorio is, then all of us will have a reaction, I want to say a response of being touched and moved, being uplifted and inspired, feeling love and hope and joy and comfort and faith, inspiration, all those things that elevate our heart and soul. And so the oratorio, I think another piece that I'm always reminded of when I hear the oratorio is the Messiah, Handel's Messiah, which was also a spiritually inspired by the Bible piece of music. And Swamiji, when I've read stories of Handel writing Messiah and working with Swami when he was writing the oratorio, the experiences are the same. I remember walking into his living room one day, which I did, regularly. I brought his mail. I was an assistant to him. And he was sitting at the piano. This was in the middle of him writing the oratorio. And I walked in, and he turned around. He was still in his dressing gown, in his robe. His hair was standing on end. He looked like Beethoven. His hair all over the place. And he looked at me, and I just went back out. I just quietly closed the door. He didn't even see me. He was so in the moment, in that, that he was channeling. And that's what you read when you read Handel or about Beethoven or Mozart. They channel this music. They are inspired by this music. So the power of it comes through, and you feel it. You can, you listen and you have a similar experience to what their experience was. So Swamiji, describing the oratorio, said that for him it was a very mystical experience. It's the most mystical of his music. And he says one piece in particular is the most mystical of all, and that is Thy Light Within Us Shining. Now, I know I think someone spoke this week about Love is a Magician, and I didn't listen to that one. But he had not written Love is a Magician yet. So I would venture to say that that's another one that he feels is the most mystical of all. But at the time he had written the oratorio, he said that Thy Light Within Us Shining was his most mystical piece of music. And so the idea of a mystical piece of music being given, which is what he felt it was, given to someone, is written so that others will hear and feel and experience what he felt and experienced as he was writing it. And just to remind us of the Thy Light Within Us Shining. Now, it doesn't say Thy Light Within Us Shining when we find you. It just, Thy Light Within Us Shining. It's already there in each one of us. God's light is present within us. And it shows us, his words, has shown where freedom lies. It shows us where freedom is. That light is our freedom. And finding that light, communing with that light, touching that light will free us from dire fears, as the Bhagavad Gita says, and colossal sufferings. From earthly walls confining, we are confined, we, the soul, the light of God, is confined within a material physical body in a material physical world. But the material physical body and the material physical world could not exist without that light, without that spark of God within every atom of creation, including us. So, from earthly walls confining, we soar in spirit skies, because then we're free, we can fly. We're outside of, we have transcended the confining walls of materialism. We're free. How often, like sheep, we all do what we do. We follow peer pressure. In English, we say peer pressure. We follow where others lead. And if others don't lead us, we lead others. So we're like, Swamiji would often say we think we're free because we can do what we want. But is it freedom to do what you want, especially things that are harmful? To do what you want means you can drink as much as you want, or eat, as much as you want, or eat sugar as much as you want, or be angry as much as you want. It's not necessarily a positive thing, and we become addicted to drinking too much, or eating too much, or being angry too much, or you understand. It's not freedom. We are caught, we're trapped in that. And so, sheep just follow. We just follow. We just follow the feeling of I want it and go for it, without considering or thinking or feeling, is it good? Is it positive? Will it harm me? Will it help me? Will it harm others? Will it help others? Those are the things that get us out of the trap, not just going where we want, anytime, where. So how oft, like sheep, we've strayed apart from the light, apart from God. But now that we're on the spiritual path, now that we are wanting to know, now that we, are committed to a spiritual life, then we can be guided by that light. And that light is exemplified in great souls, the masters, and their teachings. They help us to go where they're leading us. And so the light within us responds to the light in the masters, in great souls, in their teachings, and to keep going. And then in the inner freedom of the heart, free because we're not caught or trapped anymore. The heart knows. The mind will try to talk the heart out of what it, you may have a feeling or a sense of something and really want it. But then the mind can talk us out of it. I'm talking about good things now. It's a good thing if the mind talks us out of doing bad things. But even good things, the heart and soul will respond intuitively. But then the intellect will kick in with doubt or questions. The heart knows, the heart understands, again, intuitively. It's not necessarily caught by, all the things that, because the mind weighs, it analyzes, it wants to know, is this, is this? The heart just knows. So in the inner freedom of the heart, a heart that's not bound or trapped, it knows the inspiration and the light and the power that it feels is true. So in inner freedom of the heart, our night, the night of material bondage, of emotional bondage, of psychological bondage, all of that is night. When we understand with intuitive faith in God, in that light, then day dawns, the dawn of, self-realization, of awareness of God in reality, communion with God, oneness with God. So the meaning of this song in a very few stanzas, Swami he tells us the story of how the soul evolves and what brings us from bondage, from being trapped, to soar in spirit skies, how we do that, how we can do that. So the mystery that Swami talks about, the mystical element, is that light is there already. But because we are distracted, because this is the very, what's the word I'm thinking of? It's a very poignant reality that the very thing that we are seeking and wanting, needing, and really are conscious of wanting and needing it, is already within us. Master, in his lessons, in his original teachings, tells the story of the musk deer. And he says that the musk deer smells this beautiful scent. And of course, it's on him. It's coming from him. He has a gland that, puts out this amazing scent at different seasons in the year. And he says the musk deer goes mad looking for the source of the scent and just, injures himself in his desperation to find the source of this scent. And in the story, he says that he flings himself over a cliff, not to kill himself, but just in the blind frenzy of trying to find, where is this source? Where does it come from, this beautiful scent? It's in us already. The musk deer owns it. It's his. And he doesn't know. And we are the same. The soul is covered. Master calls it a diamond. And he said it's like a diamond covered in mud. So You can't see the diamond when it's covered in mud. The mud being the body. We can't see the light. We can't know the light because it is hidden in our identification with the body and not the light. All great masters come to tell us that our journey is to find the light within us. God's light within us, shining all the time. Without that light, I mean, the amazing thing is that the mystery is that even when we're on the spiritual path, even when we're moving toward God, even when we're trying to live the teachings of a true master, we still don't quite believe that the light is already in us. That's the mystical element, that the light, without the light, we couldn't exist. Without the light, this world couldn't exist. And identification with the light takes the blinders off our eyes, and we not only know, we realize the truth of that light. Swamiji said, it isn't easy to the work he had to do to create this oratorio and this beautiful song. In other words, you feel the inspiration and the power coming through you, but then you have to write it all down and get it out on paper and make it sound right. The music, the inspiration is a one-time great flush of this is it, but then you have to laboriously. I remember being in a museum once in Germany or in somewhere in Europe, because it was a music museum, and I was looking at Beethoven. I've always had a soft spot for Beethoven. I read many composers' lives, and his was very tragic. I mean, for a musician of his caliber to be deaf, or going deaf at a very early age. He wrote a lot of his music while he was going deaf, and when he wrote his Ninth Symphony, he was completely deaf, which is amazing to think about. But the point I was trying to make is, they showed Beethoven's manuscripts in a case, in a glass case, and I could feel his impatience to get the music he knew was whole out, because he'd written something and then he crossed it out, and then he wrote it again and he crossed it out, just trying to get it out and perfect. And I remember in my time working with Swamiji, the same energy around the oratorio. I had a friend who said she walked in on him once, like I had done. But she said he looked at me and it was like, are you an A or a B flat? He did not see anything until that was out there. So he said, Swamiji, that it's not easy to put out into physical manifestation this great inspirational flow that you feel. So why would someone do that? And he said, the compulsion, or I felt compelled to do it for others. I wanted others to experience what I had experienced. I didn't want to keep it as my own. I wanted it out, give it to everyone, so everyone can feel the inspiration and the power and the spiritual upliftment that I felt when I encountered these places in the Holy Land that inspired this powerful music. So if he feels the whole of the oratorio is a mystical piece of music, and that thy light within us shining is the most mystical, we have to take that seriously, because it's got incredible spiritual power for us. It isn't just listening to the words, we went over the words, but it's also the feel. If you close your eyes when you're listening to it, you feel what he's talking about. There is an element of mystery, of spiritual upliftment. I mean, there's lots of elements, but there's a lot in there for us. Swamiji, toward the end of his life, or later, not when he first wrote the oratorio. It wasn't toward the end, because he did it for a long time. But he started to stand whenever the choir performed Thy Light Within Us Shining. He did it very naturally, and of course we all followed his lead. But he was in the tradition of what he was doing, which he was acknowledging the sacred gift of the music, first of all, and honoring what that meant to him. And we, in now still, after Swami's passing, we still do that in honor of Swamiji and his gift to us of this music. So it's a beautiful tradition that we have continued. And, you know, to end, Thy Light Within Us Shining is about the fact that on the spiritual path, anything that guides, inspires, and uplifts us is a light. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny glimmer or, you know, a raging flame. Anything, because I'm inspired to say this from Master's teachings. He says, we have to fan the little flame of spirit, of devotion, of inspiration within us always. In other words, we don't allow our spiritual life to become mechanical or indifferent or flat. We want to keep it alive and magnetic and dynamic. And so in this piece of music, we have that message. Thy light is what keeps us moving forward. Again, whether it's a little glimmer or a great raging flame of light. It's God's light that draws us to the path. It's God's light within us that draws us to the path. It's God's light that sustains us on the path. It keeps us moving forward. Even if we fall back, it still keeps us moving forward. Even if it's slowly, it doesn't matter. God's light sustains us on the spiritual path. To get onto the spiritual path, it's God's light that gives us the inspiration, or that I want to find out, I want to know, I want to see. It's God's light that keeps us going and sustains us on the path. And in the end, it's God's light that we commune with and unite with and become one with. So without God's light, nothing is possible. It's all about God's light, leading us, you know, Thy light within us shining, a light in the darkness. Master said, you can't get rid of the darkness by beating it with a stick. You have to turn on the light. Anytime we use the word light, we are talking of illumination, enlightenment, understanding, knowledge, awareness, realization. Even an idea, we use an image of a light bulb. You know, it's light is the thing that starts, sustains, and ends the whole journey of the spiritual life. And it's already within us. It's already here. We have to acknowledge when we meditate, when we work, conserve, when we go to, you know, do something fun, go to sleep, acknowledge the light, guiding, helping, sustaining, and finally uniting us with the light of God. God bless you all.